Trump and Putin signal they'll have a phone call soon. What will they talk about? As President Donald Trump looks to fulfill what he says is his goal to be known as a peacemaker by settling the war in Ukraine, he's called for a direct line of communication with Russia's President Vladimir Putin multiple times during the first days of his second term, saying he really would like to be able to meet the Russian leader soon to get that war ended. "I think from what I hear, Putin would like to see me. We'll meet as soon as we can," Trump said at the White House on Thursday. The Kremlin said that Putin was ready to hold a call with Trump and was only waiting on Washington to signal that Trump was also ready. Both sides have indicated that a phone call is seen as a first step toward a more substantial in-person meeting between the leaders, a format Putin suggested he would prefer. "It would be better for us to meet based on the realities of today to talk calmly on all those areas that are of interest to both the United States and Russia," Putin said during a televised interview on Friday. Any conversation between the two would mark the first time a sitting U.S. president and Putin have spoken since the war in Ukraine began, although former President Joe Biden held phone calls with Putin multiple times in the lead-up to Moscow's invasion to urge Putin against it. Communication between lower tiers of government has continued through the war, and a source familiar with the situation told ABC News that working-level talks between American and Russian diplomats had continued at normal clip following Trump's inauguration. Even before Trump re-entered the White House, his national security advisor Mike Waltz said in an interview on ABC's This Week that preparations were already underway for Putin and Trump to speak by phone in the coming days and weeks. Trump also said he would take it further than a phone call, predicting he would meet with Putin very quickly after his inauguration. Putin has also seemed receptive to reopening lines of communication with the White House, applauding Trump's willingness to restore Russia's earlier direct contacts with Russia earlier this week. At times, Trump has been criticized for having what some describe as an overly cozy relationship with Putin. In February 2022, Trump praised Putin's strategy in Ukraine, calling the invasion genius and savvy during a radio interview. At a summit with Putin held in Helsinki in 2018, Trump drew bipartisan criticism for saying he didn't see any reason to believe Russia meddled in the 2016 election, contrary to the findings of the U.S. intelligence community. Putin has also spoken highly of Trump, endorsing his baseless claims that the 2002 election was stolen from him and agreeing with Trump's statements that the war in Ukraine never would have happened if he were still in office. Trump's track record of warm relations with Putin sharply contrasts with his recent threats against Russia. "Settle now and stop this ridiculous war. It's only going to get worse. If we're going to make a deal and soon, I have no other choice but to put high levels of taxes, tariffs, and sanctions on anything being sold by Russia to the United States and various other participating countries," Trump wrote on Truth Social earlier this week. In the wake of the war in Ukraine, trade between the U.S. and Russia plummeted to the lowest levels since the fall of the Soviet Union, making Trump's threat of tariffs mostly toothless. However, during a virtual appearance at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, the president upped the ante, saying he would ask the OPEC cartel to bring down the cost of oil. "That will end the war. You could end the war," he said. The Biden administration, along with other governments in the G7, instituted a $60 per barrel price cap on Russian oil exports shipped by sea in 2022, a play to eat into Moscow's profits while avoiding an energy crisis. Moscow has been able to make a small profit from its discounted exports, but if OPEC were to ramp up production of oil, therefore bringing down the cost of gas from other exporters, the Kremlin could lose its customers. If Trump can persuade OPEC to boost production at the expense of Russian volumes, a deal his predecessor was never able to strike, he could secure leverage over Moscow, maintain low world energy prices, and keep U.S. oil and gas companies and their customers happy, said Joseph Webster, a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Global Energy Center. For its part, the Kremlin has responded to Trump's threats coolly. "We do not see any particular new elements here," spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said on Thursday.